chapter number 6. Verse 2. Verse 2. And God spake unto Moses and said unto him, I am the Lord. And I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob by the name of God Almighty. But by my name Jehovah was I not known. And I am also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land of pilgrimage, wherein they were strangers. And I have also heard the groaning of the children of Israel, whom the Egyptians keep in bondage. And I have remembered my covenant. Wherefore, say unto the children of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burden of the Egyptians, and I will rid you out of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments, and I will take you to me for a people, and I will be to you a God. And ye shall know that I am the Lord your God, which bringeth you out from under the burden of the Egyptians. And verse 8 says, and I will bring you into the land concerning which I did swear to give to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob, and I will give it you for inheritance. I am the Lord. There was a time when Israel can think back in their past, when God did something for them, and He brought them out of Egypt. But then, after this chapter, you'll find that throughout the book of Exodus, that He brings them through the Red Sea, and then He does give them the land of Canaan, and He does give them kings, even though they asked Him for something He didn't want them to have. He gave them Saul, and then He gave them David, and He gave them all sorts of kings that some did right and some did wrong. But everything that God did, He was with them in. And every time they had a problem, all throughout the book of Judges, God was there for them. And every time they asked Him and they cried, even though they'd done wrong, God was merciful unto them. And every single time they needed their God, He was right there. And yet in this passage, in this entire book of Isaiah, if you read it and you're reading Jeremiah, you're seeing a nation who had not only forgotten God, they'd gone to other gods, false gods, and they do this over and over again, but they had forgotten what it meant to know the Lord. They had forgotten who Jehovah was and the power, all the things that He did in the past. You think of Elijah and when they forgot Him on the mount. And you remember when there was a fire that they were burning there, and they were trying to figure out, who's the Lord? Is it Baal? If it's Baal, serve him. If it's the Lord, serve him. And God proved to them that day that He was the Lord. He proved to them throughout the entire Old Testament that He was the Lord. In the beginning of Isaiah, and this just came to mind. It's funny because this just shows you how arrogant Israel had become. Here, God's asking them, He asked the king of Israel, He said, hey, just. Hey, Isaiah, are we talking about? Yeah, okay, Israel. Judah and Southern and Northern Kingdom. I'm trying to get that mixed up in my head while I'm speaking so fast. But yeah, he asks this to the king of the nation. He says, hey, show me a sign. Show me anything you want. And show me anything, I'll give it to you. I'll give you the sign. And the king said, I don't know why. There's so much pride. He thought he could do it on his own. I'm not going to tempt the Lord. I'm not going to tempt God. I'm not going to test Him. And I'm not going to ask Him a sign. Arrogance. And then the next thing Isaiah says to me, it's like, you're tempting the people, but are you gonna tempt my God also? Are you gonna do this to my God? And He said, therefore the Lord Himself will give you a sign. A virgin's gonna conceive, and she's gonna bear a son, but you're not even gonna be around for this. And it's all because of this nation's arrogance and their pride in themselves. And you know what? God says, I'm gonna be through with you now. For a while. I've dealt with you over and over again, but you keep forgetting me. You keep forgetting that I'm the Lord. You keep forgetting that I'm the everlasting God. And thirdly, you keep forgetting who made you. And this, I would say, is a problem with some of us. We're not Jewish, and sometimes we don't forget that God is the Lord, that He's all powerful. We don't forget that He's the everlasting God in the sense that God is, He's above me. That's not where we struggle. God is obviously greater than me, and I can live with that my whole life and usually not forget it. But a lot of times, we forget that God made us. We forget who made who. We forget who is it that's calling the shots here. Who is responsible for me being here right now? Who do I owe everything to? Everything that I have, everything that I am, all of the wisdom that I can gather up in whatever time I've got on this earth, everything that I have, who gave it to me? God did. God did. He's the creator. He's their maker. Look down in we're back in Isaiah chapter 40, verse 21. Back at 21. He's talking to them, and we read this earlier. He says, "It's he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretches out the heavens as a curtain, that he makes them to dwell in, that bringeth the princes, yea," and verse 24, "they shall not be planted." And this whole part is the fact that he says they're as grasshoppers. I mean, you ever see a little grasshopper, he bounces around? He's like, that's my perspective of you. You're a little grasshopper to me. And God says, you're not as strong as you think you are. And I think that's the entire point of this passage. That's what he's trying to get across. I don't think he's rebuking them in the sense, you know what, no. I think what he's trying to get them to realize, and what he's going to deal with in the next part of the passage, is the fact that they're not strong, and they think they are. They're not what they think they are. They can't defeat those they think they can defeat. They're not going to make it without him, and he wants to be there for them. He wants to be there to help them. But they've forgotten who their God is. The end of the verse. He says this, it says, "As thou not known, as thou not heard, the everlasting God, the Lord, the Creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary. There is no searching of his understanding." Psalms 147, verse 5. "Great is the Lord, and of great power. His understanding is infinite." His understanding is infinite. It's something that you can't grasp. And that's how great my God is. Aren't you glad you serve a great God that is all-powerful? Aren't you serve a God that can take care of me, and yet he can take care of you at the same time? Aren't you glad you serve a God that's hearing my prayers, and yet he's hearing your prayers as well? I mean, that's an exciting thing when you think about who our God is. You know, Allah's never answered a prayer. And when you think of Buddha died. Muhammad, he's in the grave. My God's alive. My God's powerful, and my God listens to me. And God is trying to remind this to his very people whom he had redeemed. He said, "I am the Lord. I am the one who made you. You need me. You can't do it without me." There's no searching of his understanding. It's infinite. The problem was they didn't think that God knew what they were going through, because now they're falling apart. And now the point is that God does know. God knows if there's something going on in your life. God's aware of it. God's not ignorant to the fact that you're in a trial right now. If you're dealing with something in your life, do you really think that God has no idea that I can't pay my bills, and I'm working as hard as I can. I've done everything, but God just doesn't hear my prayers. I've been asking the Lord, but they've not been answered yet. And obviously, God's not listening. I'm not right with the Lord. I struggle with that sometimes. I think, I've prayed and 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 prayed, and there's no answer. At least it seems like there's no answer. It's not the one I wanted. And so obviously the Lord's not listening, because I asked God for something and he didn't give it to me. I asked God to bless me, and I did right, and he didn't bless me. And so obviously God's not listening to my prayers. Obviously God can't hear me. God does hear. God does know. But you see, when you forget who God is, what's going to follow is you're going to forget what God can do. If you don't know who your God is, you don't know what your God can do. No. Because you serve a God that is what you want him to be. And when he's what you want him to be, and he can't help you because you've made him into what you want him to be, you no longer can trust God. And that's what happened with Israel. They'd forgotten who God was, and therefore they forgot what God can do. Verse 29, he says this, and I love this because this is the exciting part of the passage. And we're not going to deal with this point as much as we've dealt with everything else before. I know we're running out of time here, so just bear with me. He does say this. He says, "He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increases strength. Even the youths shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon the Lord," and I like this, "shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." He says, Israel, he says, you need to be reminded about something. He says, my people, you need to be reminded that it is in God where you'll find your power. And it is in God where you're going to find your strength. There's no strength in me to accomplish what I want to accomplish in my life.